So let's just take the menopausal belly weight. Is there anything we can do that we know will work?
And because weight gain is very multifaceted, I just wanted to point out that testosterone estrogen ratio that they're kind of looking at in the research, because it's new, it's very interesting, and it is something to keep an eye on, because some women will go, I don't want to go on estrogen, or I'm afraid of estrogen, or I don't think I'm a candidate for estrogen, but can I do testosterone? And then their practitioner's like, yep, let's put you on testosterone, and poof, they gain a lot of weight, especially in the middle. And they're like, what the heck? Where did this come from? This could be a contributing factor for that. So just keep an eye out for that if this happens to be you. Or your practitioner puts you on estrogen with progesterone and testosterone, and maybe the testosterone's a little higher than you need it to start with, and poof, you gain weight around the middle, and you're like, well, that's not what I wanted. Maybe I feel better, but I don't want all this extra weight in the middle because it's very inflammatory. So right now, there's like the blanket things for the weight, right? Where the weight comes. We hear it all the time. It's, are you eating enough protein? That women need a lot more protein than we think. We tend to under protein. And then going into menopause, we've gained weight. And so women cut back on calories, and that could include protein. 2 is the weight lifting heavy weights and getting that in to stimulate the use of glucose and the fatty acid. So when what's stored in our fat cells are fatty acids, such as triglycerides. And what happens is when they are to be used, to be burned, when we don't have estrogen, we don't have estradiol, as women can struggle to make that mechanism. Like the fat burning factory is just not as efficient as it used to be when you were in your 30s.
Yeah.
And so then the fatty acid is like, well, I can't get into the fat burning factory, so I'm going to get redeposited like in the liver or around the center area. And that can contribute to that. So it's even with the weightlifting can be really helpful at improving that. There are certain nutrients such as choline, phosphatidylcholine or foods with choline, to help make that whole process work better. Same with carnitine. L-carnitine helps make that process a little better for some women. Then we get into stress, because stress, of course, plays a huge role when it comes to weight gain, blood sugar, all the things. And we know we become less tolerant of stress. We don't have the resilience we used to. We've often been burning the candle at both ends leading up to our 40s. And with the change in our hormones, I call it the trampoline of life becomes more threadbare. So now you go to bounce on the trampoline of life, and instead your foot goes through, or it's not as bouncy as it used to be. And so that cortisol impacts your glucose and your insulin, contributing to the weight gain. So there are obviously a lot of ways we can work with cortisol and help our body feel safe, our nervous system feel safe. And then lastly, of course, is the nutritional aspect. So fasting plays a big role in that. But then also, what do you have at the end of your fork? If you've been living on the beer and pizza diet all the way up until your 40s, it's probably not going to work into your 40s. If these are some goals of yours, this metabolic health is a goal of yours, time to make some changes.
Oh my God, that was a beautiful list. The other thing I would add in there that I've noticed, 2 things that I've noticed for my own self that I'm curious about. One is definitely more fiber. Yeah. When I put protein and fiber first in my meals, and I'm like, boom, I'm gonna eat. Like just before I popped on here, I was like, I ate a ton of microgreens and a whole bunch of tofu. I'm actually bringing tofu back into my life and soy back into my life. And so if I bring fiber in at every single meal with the protein, I feel like that tire around my waist shrinks. So how do you feel about fiber?
And here's one of the big reasons why. When we lose estradiol and progesterone, it has a negative impact on our gut health. So when we say that the change in hormones affects all 12 systems of our body, I literally mean all 12 systems, including your GI tract. So as an example, the decline in estradiol means in our GI tract, in your small and large intestine, we have little gates in between all the cells. They're called tight junctions. And think of it, like a toll gate or a police gate, where it will allow certain things through, and things that are bad, it doesn't let through. You've got to let's get rid of those. Let's poop those out. So when we have a decline in estradiol and progesterone, it can cause a dysfunctional gate. And so now think of the gate between you and your neighbor's house. Instead of a nice tight gate that's keeping random people out, but keeps your dog and kids in the backyard. Now the gate's holy, or it's falling off, or, anybody can just push it, it falls over. And that's what it can be like in your large and small intestines. So that leads to more inflammation because now things are coming into the gate. They're coming into the backyard. You don't want in your backyard, just like you don't want it crossing through into your body. And now the immune system gets involved. So now the immune system's pissed and it's creating all of these inflammatory messengers. Cytokines is what we call them. And where's your immune system? Well, it's right there at the belly area. And so it's just going to contribute to weight gain around the middle or bloating, things of that nature. Now, fiber, prebiotics, probiotics, postbiotics. Postbiotics are what our microbiome kind of poops out. They're the food for the large intestines. Now they can keep the cells down there, the microbiome itself, the bacteria, and then the cells that line the wall happier. So whether you are or aren't on hormones, even I'm an advocate for hormones if it's right for you, but at least fiber is a great start for supporting the whole microbiome. We're more microbiome than we are human. So we want to be real nice to our microbiome. I joke all the time, we don't want our microbiome to, rise up and rally against us. We want it to work with us. And so fiber can play a huge role there. And that's just one example of what changes in our GI. So if you feel like you're going through this transition or have transitioned into postmenopause and you're like, yeah, I'm having heartburn or gas or bloating, or I just feel bloated all the time, this weight gain around the middle, more constipation or more diarrhea, like this is a contributing factor.